Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to another webinar series with Net at Work. We are going to be kicking off the how-to series. So today we're going to focus on using Sage 300 Cloud on web screens or with web screens. So today I am happy to have with me Nate Matten. He's a senior consultant here with Net at Work. And my name is Sean Fleming. I am a solution engineer with Net at Work as well. A little bit of housekeeping. Expect this presentation will last roughly 45 minutes. All the phone lines are muted, and if you've got any questions, please feel free to type them into the question box. We'll be monitoring them as we go through, and if it's relevant, we'll go ahead and answer it as we go. So our goal at Net at Work is to really help you unleash the power of your business through the transformative power of technology. And so whether we do it with Sage 300 or whether we do it with any of these blue spheres that you see around here or any of the products that you see listed in here, we want to work with you to make sure that you have a plan for your technology to meet your technology goals, and reach out to any one of us at Net at Work to do so. So with that, let's hop into our first piece here, which is our quick poll. And I'm going to go ahead and launch a couple of polls. And Nate, you may want to mute your line. We've got some feedback, I think, from your speakerphone. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this first poll. So how would you rate your access to information that you need to do your job effectively? So in this day and age, right now, we're all working, or a lot of us are working remotely. What does your access look like? All right, so we've got just over half voted so far. Let the rest of you kind of finish that. Okay, so we've got 47% that are good access, 27% that could be better, and 27% that they've got excellent access. So nobody's completely shut out, which is good to see. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll off, and then ask the next poll, which is really how are you getting that connectivity? So how are you connecting to the office? So we've got, I don't know, I got just over half voted. So we've got pretty close to 27% hosted, 20% using a VPN connection, and 40% using a remote desktop of some sort. So I'm going to go ahead and close that off. That gives us an idea of where we're at. I got a little bit of a change there, but it gives us an idea. So the agenda today, what we're going to look at is, what do I need to use web screens? You know, and we're going to go through that. Nate's going to go through that in a little bit of detail. Web screens, how do they work? And then I'm going to go through really the overall navigations. Some of the differences that you'll see in web screens is the changes in the inquiry screens, how you can do customizations. I'll show you just some of the standard data entry screens that you can plug data into. I'm going to look at email integration, and then I want to look at web screens and how they work with Sage CRM as well, and how that's a game changer as well. So that's the topic, that's the agenda for today. So at this point, I'm going to pass it over to Nate. And Nate, I'm going to give you control here just a second. Give me a second here. Okay, you should have control, Nate.
Okay. Are you able to see my presentation screen?
I am, Nate. Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So, what do we need to have to deploy web screens? So the first one is we need to be on Sage 300C or the Sage 300 Cloud subscription license. And this started in 2018, and in all of the newer versions have this type of subscription license. So that's the first thing. When we deploy web screens, the programs are installed locally on preferably a dedicated web server. In some cases, we do install them on the same server as your main Sage app server. So that is an option, but we usually discuss that, with the client and figure out the best option for deploying. In either case, we need to have IIS within the server environment. The web screens run within IIS, and then we need resources, RAM, and processor sufficient to run the web screens. And that will vary based on the number of users and modules that you use. We do recommend a separate dedicated web server when possible. And if you were running Sage CRM or other web UIs, we will combine them onto the same server. So we wouldn't necessarily need a separate server if you already have web services running. We can use that. Is there anything you would like to add, Sean?
No, that pretty much covers it.
Okay. So the next topic is web screen security. And we wanted to cover this because this is an important consideration when you're planning your deployment. And these are steps that we want to go through in advance before we install, so that we make sure we cover all of the security requirements for the client. So by default, web screens are installed using HTTP, which is the default web protocol, but it is not secure. So if the plan is to use web screens for remote users, which I imagine in most cases, will be the case, we want to take the steps to make sure that they're secure and that we limit the risk. So the first step we need to take is we need an SSL or a TLS certificate. And this uses the HTTPS protocol, which you may be familiar with. If you've ever seen a website with the lock symbol on it, this indicates it's a secure site. And you may also have seen the error not secure symbol, indicating that either the site does not have a certificate or there's an issue with the certificate. So it's important that we have, a valid functioning certificate. And this provides encryption, authentication, and data integrity between the parties using the web screens. To obtain a certificate, we recommend purchasing from a trusted certificate authority. And the reason we recommend this is that these are easy to maintain. There's nothing to install on the client side, and they're fairly inexpensive. DigiCert, GoDaddy, Network Solutions are a few of the well-known providers, and there are many others. They're easy to find. So that's our preferred option. The other option for using a certificate is to use a local self-signed certificate. And I mention this because some of our clients have requested the use of a local certificate, and we do accommodate that in those cases. But we leave that up to the client because in general, these require more setup. Oftentimes it requires an install on the client on each of the remote users' computer. And so in most cases, they're not as cost effective. So once we have a certificate, we install that on the server, we make sure the site's secure, and then we're ready to set up remote access. And for that, VPN is recommended. And the reason it's recommended is that there's no additional exposure outside with a VPN. Users would access the web screens directly over the VPN. So this is an additional level of security that is, recommended, especially if you have an existing VPN already in place. I do want to point out with a VPN, the certificate is still required to secure the website, and then the VPN is that added level of security. The next point we want to mention is the DMZ option. And this is where the web servers are isolated from your internal network. And so this again is an additional level of security because it limits your exposure. The main point we want to bring up is that a DMZ is supported. We do have customers that require the use of a DMZ, and so we are able to use web screens in that environment. And then the final point is the service account. When we install web screens, we require a named user or service account. And this is used for the IIS security and for the Windows service used by web screens. And this account requires permission to the Sage shared folder, which oftentimes is on a separate server, and also the program files, which are installed locally on the web server. So those are the key points that we wanted to go over. I did want to point out real quickly, one of the current trends with web security is multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication. And at this point, or at this time, web screens does not support multi-factor authentication. So I just want to put that out there because I know a lot of clients are going in that direction. It is on the wish list, and Sage does use that for other technologies in their cloud offerings. So we're hoping that in a future release that will be available as well. And with that, if anyone would like to go in more detail on the install and the other requirements for web screens, we can go in more depth. Please feel free to reach out as needed, and I'll turn it back over to Sean at this point.
Perfect. Thanks, Nate. I'll go ahead and take control back here. So one of the other questions that we get often is, well, what are my options to deploy this? Can I, put this, as Nate just kind of talked through, IIS in my own office? And that's what he kind of just described. That would be kind of an on-premise. Can you even access web screens if we put it hosted? And the answer is yes. In fact, I'm going to demonstrate it to you in our Cloud at Work platform. So both provide access outside the office. The hosted obviously takes a little bit more ownership of your infrastructure, and you just basically are renting that infrastructure versus the on-premise. You're maintaining that infrastructure, and then also a web server and all the other security requirements that Nate just talked through. Okay, so now that you've kind of got an idea of the back end, I think it's important to also understand, how do the web screens actually work? So you've got your traditional framework that's been in place for Sage 300 for a number of years, and it's always been a three-tier architecture, allowing the desktop application to talk to the business logic, to talk to the SQL Server. What they've done with the web screens is just infused it in as a separate user interface layer, which then, of course, talks to the business logic layer, which then, of course, populates the SQL Server database. So you have the ability just to plug the web screens in. You can run the traditional desktop as well as the web screen at the same time. There's no magic syncing. They're all using the same business logic. They're all accessing the same SQL database at the end of the day, and populating the same data into the database. So it's just a different UI. So when people ask me, well, do I have to do a sync to make that work? The answer is no. And this screen should help you see that it's just a different UI, in fact, in place. So with that, the web screens allow you to be device independent, operating system agnostic. So you can have a tablet, you can have a smartphone. The smartphones are somewhat limiting because they're small. The tablet you can get a little bit more out of, and then obviously we wanted to run on an Apple. You could do that using the web screens. If you compare the screen side by side, here's a quick screenshot between an OE screen on the left on the web screen, an OE screen on the traditional desktop on the right. In fact, it's the same order. Then it's laid out slightly different. You get similar tabs, but basically the same data is there for you to either consume and or enter in transactions. So with that being said, let's get out of the PowerPoint and go take a little bit of a live look. So I'm going to come out of here and pull into my Cloud at Work environment. So here I am on my Cloud at Work servers. How I've pulled up the web screen, in this case, I've pulled up Google Chrome. I've got a few of them laid out here. So in this case, I'm going to have multiple tabs open with different accesses to different databases. So let's go ahead and log into the first one here. Let's go ahead and log into, I'll log into Sample Company Inc. on this first one. So I'll log into Sample Company Inc. Let's change the company and let's go to Sample Company Inc. and sign in. So I'm going to log in as administrator. So I've got full access to everything within this particular server. And let's go ahead and hit, I thought I hit sign in. So let's go ahead and hit sign in. And then from here, once you've logged in, it will take me to a home page or a dashboard. And one of the things they've done in the absolute latest release is they started to tying this ribbon at the top to the color that you've coordinated within the company setup. So you can now tell the difference on your web screens. So I'm Sample Company Inc. here, and if I log in here and change this to Sample Company Ltd, you can see that I can sign in, and now I've got a green. So I may not pick these colors out, but they're polar opposites, and I just want to show you in the demonstration that you can choose this, and it's very quickly you can identify what company you're in. So not only can you tell it's Sample Company Inc. with the text that's here, or Sample Company Limited here, but now you can tell by the color. So that's new in the 2020 release. So when you log in, you get presented with a dashboard, and this dashboard is dependent on the widgets that you add here. So in this case, I can have up to 6 different widgets that can determine what I want. So if I want to see, rather than top customer billing, maybe I want to see my previous year's expenses, and I can plug that in there, and it plugs that number in there. So I can choose what I want in there, and this is, of course, given security rights and what each individual person chooses within their desktop or their dashboards. As you go down the left-hand side, this is all the modules that you've got activated in here. And if I was to go ahead and log into, say, even a third one, I'll go ahead and sign into this one. And you'll start to see that we even have, I'm going to go ahead and choose a different company here. Let's choose the services company and sign into that one. So from here, you'll start to see even third parties are also here. So in this case, I've got the Norming Asset Management is also activated in the web screen. So we're starting to see some of the third parties coming through and put their web screens on here as well. Okay, so you can see I have 3 different companies open, all with their own color coordination, so you can tell which company that you're in. So you've got all your modules on the left-hand side. You can collapse this, so once you know that that's accounts payable and that's accounts receivable, it just gives you back a little bit of real estate. Until you do that, you can leave these expanded, and it just consumes a little bit of the real estate. So from here, I can go in and start opening different screens. So if I wanted to look at a customer record, and I wanted to also go look at, maybe I want to go look at AP transaction and look at invoice entry, I can go ahead and do those things. And over here, I've got this windowing system manager that allows me to navigate quickly between those two screens that I've got open. So if I wanted to go back to my AR customers, I can quickly go back to that. So what they've done is they've cached that information so that it's not a traditional web page load. It's just very, very quick. I'm just toggling between the two screens that I've got open. I've also got most recently used screens, so I can go in and look at, what my OE order entry was, and it'll go back to that OE screen, and I can start entering in orders here. So now I've got three screens that are open. I can quickly toggle back to the customer record, and so on and so forth. So that's basic navigation. You can see my session date at the top. You can see who I'm logged in as. You've also got the concept of global search. So if I wanted to look for Ron Black, I can go out and search for Ron Black. It shows me every instance of Ron Black that he's in. I could also just search for just customers if I wanted to, or any specific things. Maybe I want to go in and say, well, show me everything that's got a particular transaction ID associated with it. So maybe I want to go look for, PO number 29. I can go out and literally copy this, come back into this screen here. Actually, I've clicked into that, but if I go back into my global search and go, I thought I copied that PO, and then I'm going to say there's too many zeros there, so I'm going to try to copy it again. It won't let me do that. Okay, so you can see what this is doing is it's all hyperactive. If I click on that link, it's taking you to the PO itself. And then the other thing with the global search, if you know what the number is, you can go ahead and plug that number is. And so I can say PO and then 4. Let's see if we can find PO number 4, and it finds the PO number, and I can drill down into that PO and it pulls it up. So that's a quick way to look at the global search that's there. It searches like a kind of a Google search that's there. You've got help files that are there, so quick information on help. And then you've got the menuing that you've seen here, but you've also quick access to reports that you use most often. And then one of the things that's very different in the web screens versus your traditional desktop is the inquiry screen. So if I was to look at inquiry screens, and I'm going to pick on, let's say, an AR customer transactions outstanding, and I'll say functional currency, and it'll go ahead and pull all this information up. Did I hit AR or AP? I meant to hit AR. So let's go ahead and hit AR. Hit AR customer fully paid. Okay, so that pulls that information up. So from here, if I wanted to group by customer name or by customer number, I can drag that into here, and I've now got a grouping. If I want to extend that out to 100 records, I can do that. And it basically will now group those together. If I wanted to filter on just invoices for a specific customer, I can start to do that. And I've got filter ability and say, just show me those that are 1210, and say filter, and they'll go out and pull me just Acme Plumbing that's there. I could sort by document date just by clicking on the header. I could sort by and filter by document type or by currency if I wanted to. So you've got more functionality in here. The other thing that you could do in these inquiries is you can quickly get them out to Excel. So with a one click, I've now got this fully paid query specifically on Acme Plumbing that I can put into Excel, and in nice, neat rows and columns. So no longer do I have to deal with the format that Crystal arbitrarily puts it in, where it doesn't put it in nice, neat rows. It's got a lot of additional formatting that you don't need. So that's a nice function of the inquiry screen. Okay, so with that, I also wanted to kind of talk through some of the basic screens. So let's go ahead and look at, I'm going to come back to, actually, let's go back to my customer screen. And in here, we've got, typical customer information. I've got Ronald Black that's there. We've got notes that pop. It's the same notes that it's in the desktop if you've used them. And in here, I've got all the traditional tabs that we've got. We've also got the inquiry tab. Now, the inquiry tab is very similar to what you just saw in the query over here, but it's already filtering it for Ronald Black. Okay, so that's a nice function that it's got there. The other thing that I want to highlight here is you have the ability with every one of these screens to customize it. You also have the import and export function that you have in your traditional desktop. But if I wanted to customize things, I can go in here and say, for example, I wanted to take the on hold off because we don't want to give certain people within my organization the ability to put customer on hold. And maybe I would question who uses a fax number anymore. So we want to get rid of the fax number, or anything that we want to do to customize or take advantage of the real estate. I can take things out and it'll actually dynamically redraw the screen. So in this case, if I go to customize and I choose a customization option, I've got a sample one I have to set up here for sales. And in here, what I've done is I've gone through and I've said, well, rather than my traditional customer name, I've put in client name, and I want to show client name for everything here. And for instead of customer number, I want to put a client number. So you can see that we can do that stuff here. So if I close this down, notice it comes back right away to customer number and client name. The reason for that is I'm logged in as administrator. But if I log out, and I'll go ahead and log in as somebody that's in the sales group, I'm going to sign out and log in as Allison. And I'll sign into Sample Company, Inc. Now, Allison doesn't have as many rights. She's got access to far fewer modules than the administrator does, but she does have access to customers and customer records. However, when she logs in, she gets client number and client name. Also, the on hold isn't there because that's been established to the sales group, and she's been then associated to the sales group within the customization for the web screen. So you can do some neat things within the web screens that you can't do in the desktop. I can't change labels in the desktop. I can do some things with hiding some things in the desktop, but I definitely cannot change the labels, and it doesn't dynamically redraw the pages. So some fun things with customization within the web screens themselves. I'm going to go out and log back in as administrator to show you a few more things. Log in as administrator, and then back to my my dashboard. So some of the screens that people use most often, an order entry screen we had open there a minute ago. So I'll go ahead and launch an order entry screen. So within the web screens, one of the things that people can do is use the full screen functionality by hitting F11, and I now have a full screen to take full advantage of what's the real estate on the screen. So in this case, I can go ahead and plug in an order by starting with the customer number. I can use a finder there as well. And then just tabbing through, I can put in the invoice number. In this case, I could say I didn't use the order description and order reference. I could customize it and get rid of them, and then it would pull the line items up. To add a line item, I simply hit add line, and my miscellaneous or my item is still there. I can tab through or use my finder if I know what it is. 11030. Oops. Okay, so it's still telling me that that's not a valid number, so I can use my finder here. So 1030 is what I was trying to type in. We can use the finder that's there, and it pulls that in. Still all the price list, and everything is still 100% the same. I can plug in, I want 10 of those, and move on to the next line. I can continue to add lines. I continue to build this out. I can post this. I can also do a pre-authorization. So, if you're using credit card processing, I've just pre-authorized the credit card. At this point, I can post it. And then it's going to ask me, one of the things that I like about this, it's going to ask me, do I want to print it? Sure, let's print it. And then I can choose to print it to the customer's destination, and I can print it. So from here, it's automatically sent that email over to Ron Black, and he can then consume that via his email, and away we go. We didn't have to print that off, save it to a PDF file. It automatically goes out. Got a question comes in here. Are customization of fields company-wide, not by user profile? The customizations are by the profile that you associate to the user. So it's not per user unless you created a profile per user. It's per group of user are those customizations. So it wouldn't be 100% specific to a user. It's within the profile that you assign the user to. So hopefully that answers that question. So you get the ability to, again, plug away, put in orders, put in quotes, take payments. Every transaction that you can do in your traditional desktop, you can do it within the web screens. There are a couple of exceptions to that rule, but 98% of the screens that are available in the desktop are available in the web screen. All right, so what I want to do now is also go through and just take a quick look at, what does it look like with the web screens from a CRM perspective. Okay, so one of the nice things that they've done is because of the web API that they've created here, you can now take full advantage of using this API within CRM as well. So if I was to log in as CRM and see what's the big deal about the web screens with CRM, well, you'll start to see it here pretty quickly. So I'll log in as administrator, and I'll let that load. We're waking up the web server on CRM for the first time. All right, log in as administrator, drops me on my dashboard. One of the things that I want to highlight here is I can go to, again, Mr. Ronald Black here. This is the same record that we were seeing on the web screens. And from here, if I hit the customer screen, this should look remarkably familiar because we were just on this screen within the context of the web screen. All they've done is superimposed the same web screen and put it in the context of CRM. So if I update it here, it's updating the same SQL database within Sage. It's now one database, just using and embedding the screens within this SQL, within Sage CRM. The other thing that they've got is great access to things like the ability to see all the orders. This should look a little bit familiar. This is the inquiry screens that we looked at a second ago. We didn't look at this OE inquiry, we looked at the AR one, but it's the same concepts. Okay, so we can go back and look at the inquiry screens that are there. So if we look at, they've got some unique things here too, as well as looking at your serial numbers. And so you can look at all the items that have got serial numbers that have shipped, in this case, to Ronald Black, and the same thing with lot numbers as well. One of the things that I love about this is that you've got, from the summary view, a quick look at the ability to create a new quote, a new order, or look at inventory levels. So this is peering in using the inquiry functionality within the web screens to do this. And then they've added a couple of new features to create a new quote or a new order. So I've got the ability to say, well, that fluorescent desk lamp that I just ordered there, I could order it here. I could also, maybe I need some bulbs that I didn't get. So let's do a quote for some bulbs. I can click on the quote and move this over here, make this a wee bit bigger, maximize that out. So in here, I can add the line and say, I want a quote. I clicked the wrong button, but I can go in here and add the bulb here as a line item, and away you go. Just the same thing, doing a quote. Now I'm doing it in CRM, but I'm really doing it directly within the web screens. Okay, so I can refresh that. I've got my price for the quote for 7. I can do a pre-authorization. I guess I wouldn't do it for a quote, but I can go ahead and post this. And again, it's going to ask me if I want to print it. I can print it to a screen if I want to, or I can change the print destination to the customer and then email it straight away from here using the web screens, and it's going to email it straight away. Okay. So with that, oops, wrong screen. So seeing if we've got any questions in the queue. I don't see any questions in the queue here. Move this over. One thing I did want to point out here is when we're sending those email communications, I'm going to drag this in here. So as Ronald Black, I'm getting those communications as they go. So the quote that I just created, the order confirmation that I did, are now here as we process them through that. And so when you hit print, it automatically sends it as a PDF and sends that fluorescent desk lamp, or bulb in this case, for $7.10 with the tax. Okay, so no longer am I having to save that PDF somewhere and then attach it. It just sends it straight out of the system with the CRM and the web screen interface. Okay. All right. So with that, the only other thing I wanted to kind of show you here is just some CRM functionality. So once you've created the quote, you then have the ability to select the quote and say the customer says, I want to go ahead and I want to promote it to an order. I can simply hit promote to an order. It closes up the opportunity. And again, it's going to take you in the web screens and promote it from a quote to an active order. And it's already put it in here. All I have to do at this point is post it. I could do a pre-authorization if I wanted to. On that order, it pre-authorized the card, and I can post it. Okay. The credit card piece will feed into another session that we'll do on another day. So if you want more information on the credit card piece, we've got a how-to session on that in one of our upcoming webinars. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail. And again, I can print that out, and it fires the email off. And if I look at Ron Black's email, that'll be in just a second. So with that, I'm going to stop the presentation here and come back to my PowerPoint and just see if there's any questions. And in the queue, I'll give you a second to type your questions in there. If you've got questions after the fact and didn't feel like typing them in here, feel free to reach out to me. My information is here on the screen. So it's sfleming@network.com. That is my direct line. So if you want to give me a call, that would be just fine. By all means, reach out to us. Come talk to us about how we can make your lives a little bit easier about remote access, using web screens, and getting you from a good access to really great access, so that you're not skipping a beat while you're having to work in this current crisis that we're in. So with that, I don't see any more questions in the queue. There is a question that came in. Are you going to provide a copy of this presentation? Yes. So everybody that registered and or attend will get an email link probably sometime tomorrow with the recording and the PowerPoint that was used today, so that you can share it with other colleagues. So with that, I'm going to sign off, and hopefully we will see you all on the next webinar. Thanks for attending, everybody. Have a good rest of the day.